Hi, I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my Theory Tuition series where we're working together through the ABRSM Theory Grades. There are lots of resources available to help you on my website. If you visit sharonbill.com, you'll find some free PDF information sheets and you can download those in US letter or A4 and they accompany each step of this series. There's also a page there with links to all of my YouTube video tutorials, and you can access information about the books that I have available. I've written an exam technique guide, how to take your ABRSM Music Theory Exam, and it's full of tips and techniques on how to best prepare for your exam and also how to make the best use of the time on exam day when you're working through your exam paper. So if you visit sharonbill.com, you'll find it's all there. If you can give me a like, that would be super. And subscribe to my channel to keep updated. There's lots more in store. And so now we're going to have a look at the paper C from the Grade 3 2015 past papers. So if you turn with me to page 9, we'll make a start on paper C. Now I always suggest that you have a go of this yourself. I know that I'm repeating myself there, but it's so much more important to do so. You will learn more thoroughly. Even if you make some mistakes, it doesn't matter. Always write in pencil. I use a mechanical pencil so it's nice and sharp, so it's neat. And then you've got your trusty eraser to hand and it doesn't matter if you go wrong. Or at least if you're not sure how to go about it, just listen to the first part of the explanation and then just press pause and then have a go yourself afterwards. So I'm hoping you've had a crack at these, and so we'll look at these together now. So question 1 asks us to add the missing bar lines to each of these 3 melodies. So we've got 3 separate time signatures, and so we're going to have to just do 3 different sets of counting. Be careful it doesn't just continue on. So this is just a simple case of adding up 6 quaver beats. It's 8 notes, eighth notes per bar. So we have 2 eighth notes to a quarter note, 2 quavers to a crotchet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's first bar line. This one divides into 3 because of the dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the next bar line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. The dot and the semiquaver, the 16th note, give us 5, and those two combined together gives another quaver or another 8th note, so there's 6, and so there's our next bar line. And this bar should now add up to 6. 1, 2, 3 with the dot, 4, 5, 6 with the rest. That's correct. So we know we've not gone astray somewhere there. If it didn't add up quite at the end, then we know we've gone wrong somewhere in the middle. If you find that you get really stuck, you can just sometimes work from the back and just catch up with yourself that way. So long as there's a double bar line, you know that this bar is going to be a complete 6/8. If it says etc., then the last bit isn't a complete bar. Okie dokie. So now we're counting. Mathematically it's the same amount of time because this is 6 quavers or 6/8 notes. Here we've got 3 crotchet beats, 3/4 notes, which is exactly the same amount of time mathematically. However, this is compound time because it's grouped in 3s. This is simple time grouped in 2s, and we're counting in crotchet beats now. So there's 1 beat, there's 1 beat, and this together beamed gives us another beat. If you want to just check the maths there, you can see we've got a half a beat here. The dot is half of a half, which is a quarter, and then here's your other quarter, so that gives us 1. So 1, 2, 3, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and a half with the dot, so there's half, and then 2/4 of a beat give us another half, so there's our 3. And we can double check at the end, 1, 2, 3, and so we know that that's correct. Let's look at this next one. So this now is the common time signature, which is another way of writing 4/4. So we're counting 4 crotchet beats per bar. And we know that we beam in crotchet beats in 1 beat here. We've got 4/4 this would average out at. If you think there's 1/4 of a beat, and then the dot and this note here, this demi-semiquaver, is an eighth and an eighth, so that gives us a quarter of a beat. This is a quarter of a beat, and we've got a dot and a demi-semi again, that gives us another quarter, but we know that we beam in groups of crotchet beats of a whole unit, so we've got 1, 2, 3, half of a beat rest, half a beat note, there's beat 4. Let's just check the maths on that now. I've shown you the cheat way of just going 1, 2, 3. However, we can see we've got a half a beat here. The dot is half of that again, which gives us a quarter of a beat. And then here we have another quarter of a beat in this semiquaver, the 16th note. There's a whole beat. We've got a quarter of a beat here, a quarter of a beat here, and a half a beat here. That gives us a whole note, a whole beat as well. And if it is, like me, maths is not my strong point. So I always just imagine there's my whole beat. That's a crotchet or a quarter note beat, our unit value. And if we divide that into quarters, we can see here we've got a quarter of a beat here, and then we've got half of that again, and then there's the other part of that quarter of a beat, the other half of that quarter, if that makes sense. Then we've got a quarter of a beat here, and then we've got half of that again, and then there's the remaining eighth of a beat. There we go. So let's look at this next one, not so tricky this bar. 2 quarters make a half, 2 quarters make a half, there's 1 beat in total, and we know that we beam in crotchet beat values, so a half and a half gives us another 1. So 1, 2, there's 1, of course, 3, there's a half a beat here, and then 2 quarters gives us another half, so altogether there's our next beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's our bar line. So here 4 quarters give us a beat, 2 halves give us a beat, 3 quarters and a quarter gives us a beat, a half and 2 quarters gives us a beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 quarters gives us a crotchet beat or a quarter note, a half a beat and a half a beat gives us a crotchet or a quarter. However, we don't need to put a bar line here, it says etc. So we know this bar isn't going to be completed. So let's move on. Now question 2 asks us to write a complete 4-bar rhythm. However, this no longer forms part of the exam. In the newly revised exam from 2018 onwards, we're no longer required to complete this as part of the exam. So we'll just skip this now and go on. It's just one slight difference from an older paper now that the exam papers have been revised. However, the rest of the paper is an excellent revision option, so let's just carry on and make use of what's of benefit to us. So question 3 asks us to add the correct clef, so that's one action point we need to watch out for. And then we need to add any necessary sharp or flat signs, so we need to add the accidentals. We don't use a key signature, so we're going to have to add them as accidentals, and we need to make the scale of E major. So of course E major must begin and end on an E. So the first job to add the correct clef. In the bass clef, all cows eat grass, so E here, we need a bass clef. If we put a treble clef, that would make this a C, which wouldn't be appropriate for E major. And so the key signature for E major would be F, C, G, D sharps. So you just need to know those key signatures. It's a good idea to have these sketched out before you even start the exam paper, and then you've done all your thinking in one go, and you can just keep referring back to it. You're given a piece of scrap paper in the exam, so I would make use of that and just sketch down all your major and minor keys before you start. So now we've just got to add these in as accidentals. If it is that you're not familiar with the bass clef and so you're struggling to read those notes quickly, what you can do is just sketch E, F, G. Don't forget it's rising because we're descending, so I'm rising from the bottom up. A, B, C, D, E. And so now I've cleared up the thinking for that. So we want F sharps. The sharp goes before, of course. We need to know before we play it. C sharps, G sharps, D sharps. There we go, that's job done, and you can always just rub those out again after, now you've done your thinking. So we've got to actually place the note heads. We've got to get the blobbers in place for this. We need to use semi-breves or whole notes, so there's no need to worry about stems. So we need to write 1 octave ascending, so we're starting at the low C and going upwards, and we need to write C harmonic minor, and we need to use a key signature. However, that's not quite the full story. So let's first of all get our bits and bobs in place. So we need to start on a low C and the treble clef and then rise up an octave. So C, D, so we're going line, space, line, space, line, space, line, space. And so the key signature for C minor, it's related to E flat major, so we want a key signature of B flats, E flats and A flats. However, in order to make this the harmonic minor, we need to raise the 7th. We're starting low and counting up. We're ascending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is our 7th. It's a B flat at the moment, so in order to raise this, we add the natural sign to raise the 7th, and now that's the harmonic minor form. That's soon done then. Let's move on to the next question. So in question 4, we're asked to transpose the melody up an octave, so we've got to change the pitch up an octave, and we've also got to change the clef from bass to treble. So the best thing to do is to think about middle C as an anchor point. So here's middle C in the bass, here's middle C in the treble. At the moment, this is the B below middle C, so that's our actual pitch. And now we need to change and move up an octave. So if we count up from 8 from here, that's our starting point in the new clef. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That way we know we're starting at the correct octave. We're not an octave too high or an octave too low. So that's our starting point. So I'm just going to get these blobs in place now. I'll worry about the stems afterwards, because as I go higher or lower, I'm going to have to perhaps change which direction the stems go. And I don't want to think about everything at once. So I'm just taking one job at a time. So here we're now going to go 1, 3, 5, 6 steps up. 1, 3, 5, 6 steps up, and that takes us to G. So we can see we've come down an octave here. So now stepping down, next door note in relation to what we've started with, next door note, next door note. Now here's a useful reference point. This is middle C, so we should now be an octave above middle C, and that's correct, we are. And then down a step, and this is another checkpoint, we can see that we should be back where we started, and we are, so that's correct. Now we're going to go down 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, that takes us to E. So this is E, but now an octave difference in the treble clef. So that was the E below middle C. You can see this is the E above middle C, that's correct. Down a third should take us to middle C. Up a step. Down a third, so below the ledger line now. Up a step should take us back to C. Down a third, so we're going to need 2 ledger lines. And then up a step takes us to the B. And we should be an octave apart from where we started, so that's done. So now we've just got to worry about the stems. So this one can go either way because it's in the middle. These must come down. These must come down, that can go either way, so we'll stay going down. And then of course these are all below the middle line, so these will all have the stems coming up. So let's just get that second beam in place, and now we've just got to stick the stems there, and there's our last note. So I hope that's been helpful to you. We'll look at the next question in the next video. If you can give me a like, that would be super. Please do subscribe to my channel to keep updated. There's lots more in store. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope that you're enjoying it. I'm certainly enjoying working through it with you. Please do visit sharonburl.com and make use of all of the resource and information that's available to help you there. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.